What's going on? Thanks for joining me for another episode of Duck Gun Chronicles. Today's video, we're going to be talking all about canoe duck hunting and the gear that you need to be a successful canoe hunter yourself. If you follow the channel, you know that I have had all types of boats: aluminum boats, big boats, houseboats, canoes, kayaks, you name it, some hybrids in between. So that being said, I have a lot of experience with different types of duck hunting vessels. And I can say without a doubt, the canoe is superior to them all. So stay tuned, learn my tips and tricks. And at the end, I'm gonna have 2 bonus pro tips at the end that I don't see most people do that go a long way in helping you out in a lot of situations you're gonna come up with in duck hunting. So, before we jump into that, guys, the main gig of the channel is the hunt videos. I am traveling around the country from the beginning of September, sometimes earlier, and through late season goose, making and filming all of my hunts. And that's the main gig of the channel, posting those on the hunts. Also, if you enjoy audio form content, check out the Duck Gun Podcast, one of the biggest and best duck hunting waterfowl podcast in the industry. All right, let's jump back to today's video. As I said at the beginning, guys, we're gonna be talking about the gear that I take when I go on a canoe hunt. Today's video, we're gonna be talking about the gear that you need if you're gonna be a canoe duck hunter. So first off, it's great to have a dog when you go there. This is Chief, my buddy. It's going to be his first season this year. I got him from Southern Oak Kennels, Great Lakes. He is such a good dog. So he's learning today. He's learning about sitting in his place where it's at. That he's supposed to be kind of facing this way instead of towards me. But yeah, that's neither here or there. The first thing you need as a canoe duck hunter is a life jacket. So here we got like your cheap Coast Guard certified still, cheap little $30 or less, maybe $10 life jacket. Always good to have them around, even better to wear them. I'm guilty of not wearing them plenty, but I always keep one around close at hand. The next one that I would put out here are these inflatable life jackets. It costs a little bit more. Some of them have a sensor in them that deploys. Some of them have a CO2 canister pull string. This one had a sensor. It was sitting in my boat. My boat got a little bit of water and poof, it goes up. So I got another CO2 canister to replace on here, and then it'll be good to go. Also has a backup little blow, or like you can blow the air in this and fill it up. So these are great. These are great to wear because when they're not blown up, they're real tight and compressed around you. Unlike the cheap ones where if you wear those, they're kind of the way when you paddle, they're kind of uncomfortable. And so those are just way better. So if you don't got a budget, go for the inflatable type. You'll be happy you did. The next thing we'll go with on canoes is paddles. Now here is your traditional paddle. You got a stroke on one side, stroke on the other, stroke. You know, you can get pretty proficient at going back and forth with the paddle. But pro tip on the canoe, especially as a solo canoer, even if you're going both of you, go with a kayak paddle, especially for the guy in the back, because the guy in the back is responsible for all the steering. If you're solo, you can use this just by yourself, and you're going to be a lot more efficient and quick at switching sides and keeping your canoe going in a straight line. So there's my tip on there. Go with the kayak paddle. If you got the traditional paddle, it'll work. It'll work. There's some things you can do. I believe it's called like the J stroke, where you go back and then you push off to the side and lean to one direction as well. And that kind of helps keep you on track. You're still, unless you're really good, you're still going to have to probably switch sides every so often. All right, next thing I got for the duck hunter is a blind bag. Now, you guys know if you follow the channel, my favorite blind bag is the FA, the Final Approach Waterfowl Backpack. That backpack is all in one, the best waterfowl backpack I've ever used. But sometimes on these days, maybe you got a dog that's jumping in and out of the canoe. Maybe it's going to be raining, or there's just a lot. I mean, there's a lot of water that can happen with a canoe compared to other situations you might be in when you hunt. Well, a dry bag is a solid way to go. I use this quite a bit for when I go in a canoe. Yeah, it's a great option. So It doesn't have the same amount of organization as a normal dry bag or a normal blind bag, but everything stays super dry. And a guy like me, I'm taking camera footage or electronics, camera stuff. Putting it in something like this is a winner. Not only that, you're going to keep your ammo dry too. So kind of all-in-one solution for all of that. Also, you know, while we're talking about ammo, I got ammo. This is not the ammo I'm going to be running this year, but when you're hunting in a canoe, it's a really solid idea to have it in something waterproof, whether you put it in like a Ziploc bag. Actually, I just purchased a few of, they're called the Shoddy Gear waterproof bags. They're like a small version of this that's just big enough for your shells to go in. My buddy over there at somewhere in Wisconsin is producing those and putting them out, so it's a great option. So I snagged a few to organize my shells in. It's going to keep them dry. So if I do choose to go with something like the waterfowl backpack, I can put my shells in there and not have to worry about them getting wet and not cycling. We did have a couple hunts last year in a row where we hunted and the shells got in the water. It was late season, we had a lot of water, and those shells did not cycle very well after that. So it is super important to keep your shells dry, and everybody knows it. So don't be a fool. Next thing we got on the list is a floating gun case. Again, a Final Approach product. They make an excellent floating gun case. It's got a zipper and it comes down to here. And let's see, I got one of my favorite shotguns in here. I got the Orion side-by-side by Weatherby. Another, man, whew, that feels just right. I can imagine ducks coming right in. I busted out about 24 wood ducks coming in here to film this. So we'll be back. But a floating gun case, if you were ever to capsize in your canoe, then having something that that's gonna have your gun float is great. Not only that, it's waterproof and it keeps it dry, because the last thing you need is your gun getting dirty and wet. Like, I will lose my mind if I see people paddling around with their gun open in their canoe and then they start complaining about it, like misfiring or miscycling. It's like you just put water and grit and grime and whatever's in the water all over your gun. It's like falling straight in your action. It's just not a smart choice. So floating gun case, waterproof gun case for sure. And then the superior option is the waterproof and floating gun case as well. Next we got on the list is decoys. Guys, decoys is awesome in a canoe. And the reason for that is because you can get so many more decoys in a canoe versus like a kayak. This thing has a weight capacity of 850 pounds. Guys, like the big ocean kayaks are like 350, 400 if you're lucky. I'm a big dude, 250. He's a big dog, 70. We're up to 320. Now you put your blind bag and your shotgun, and like you're just like at capacity. Now you can't really add a lot of decoys. You can drag stuff behind, but that's just a pain in the butt. That's just more of it. I'm getting away. I'm getting on a rabbit trail. Everybody knows canoes are superior to kayaks. The only caveat I'll say to that is if you're going to layout hunt with a kayak, it can be better. There are some options for, I can't remember what the kayak hybrid blind. It works on a canoe too. You can set up in that. I mean, this has plenty of space to sit in there, brush it all in. Your canoe's brushed in. You can layout hunt in a canoe just fine. So, but those kayaks are kind of nice for it. And like for this is the Radisson, which is a lot of people are more familiar with like Sports Pal, their brother sister companies. And this thing weighs like 80 pounds. The ones without the big wide backside, 14 footers weigh like 53 pounds. You go with the 12 footers. I had a 12 footer in the past and it weighed 37 pounds. So these are lightweight, more lightweight than most kayaks as well. So back to the decoys. Some of my favorite decoys by Final Approach, the king of the timber, and we'll be using these this season, I guarantee it. But like I said, with the canoe, it's nice because I mean I could be piling decoys in here and it's not going to matter. So one of the last things I'll say on it is that we got waders. Always a good idea when you're kayak or canoe hunting to wear waders. A lot of times you're going to have to step out in this. I'm knee deep, but if I shift my weight this way or that way, Or earlier when I was falling out, I was falling through the muck over there. Sit. If you just have muck boots on, you're gonna get wet, you're gonna get cold. Not only that, you're paddling, you got a dog that might be jumping in and out. Just because you're in a boat and you think you're gonna hunt from a boat, like waders are still a good idea. It's gonna keep you dry, it's gonna keep you a little bit warmer. These are 2-in-1, so I have insulation out of them right now. So that's great when it's hot, and the insulation is great when it's cold. So yeah, definitely, you know, waders are the way to go. And especially, I mean, just all the time. Like, I almost wear them sometimes when I field hunt. They're not as comfortable to walk out as muck boots, maybe not as warm sometimes, but I feel like you're silly on a canoe or kayak hunt if you're not going to wear some waders. So the last thing, I'll talk about some of the pros now. I've kind of spattered that through the video, but some of the pros of the kayak or the canoe, just being a canoe hunter, it's more mobile. To be able to move from one spot to the other. If you just have your canoe, like a lot of times we'll just shove it up in the cattails behind us, and then we'll set up right in front of it. Sometimes I'll set up where I can like lean on the backside. I'll keep my dog out of the water sitting there. And let's say the birds are landing 250 yards that way. Well, you grab your decoys, you get in there, and you can make that change really fast. It is super mobile to be in a canoe. The other pros is just the amount of gear. You only need one vessel for 2 people and a dog. With a kayak, you need more, and you might even need 2 kayaks. And like some people like to pull a sled to get as much gear out as you can. So there's some benefits there as well. These are super lightweight. You can drag them through the woods. Not only that, but you're splitting it up with 2 people. So you can have like one guy drag the canoe or carry the canoe, the other guy carrying bags and decoys. And it's just like a team effort compared to like kayaks. Solo, got to do it all yourself, but it's still right in line with the kayak for sure. The other things I'll say is, as far as like safety goes, especially with canoes like this, and I'm not talking like the big, long, super narrow canoes, like those things cut through water better. But as far as like a hunter, like a lot of times we want to be safe. We're going out in cold conditions. If you're going by yourself, all that kind of stuff, you need to be safe. This thing is actually safer than kayaks, I would say, by far. So again, going back to that capacity thing, and like this thing being wider, it paddles like a bathtub, but that stability on it, I mean, I can stand up in this and fish. So the other thing on this, it does have an option, because it's got a square stern, of putting a motor on it. I've done that with other boats in the past. It's a good option, but a lot of times I like the kayak. Edit that out. I like the canoe because it's like a primal feeling to be out there in a canoe paddling into the marsh in the night. Like, I wish you guys could have just seen, and you could have, I would have whipped the camera out and pointed it towards you. But like, just, I mean, this is a waterfowl wildlife mecca. I mean, wood ducks buzzing around, all kinds of other creatures that live in this marsh. I mean, a bunch of birds and bugs and dragonflies. It's just, there's something primal about being out here. Now, granted, it's not as fun in the summer as it is in the fall. For me, I just love those colder conditions and being out here, you know, maybe even around color change and that kind of stuff. But even now, as summer, as everything's green and you got everything like fresh and new life, and even like, you know, the wildlife that lives out here. So something that's just primal about coming out here without, you know, the humbug of a mud motor and a big boat and lights and this and that. So don't get me wrong, I love using those stuff when I need them, especially to get from point A to point B. But when I get a chance to do stuff like this with the canoe, you know, there's definitely a certain amount of hunts during the year that I'm glad I have these as options. So I think that kind of wraps up everything I wanted to talk about for canoe hunting. All right, fellas, I literally forgot, so I have to. I'm starting to canoe back out, and I remembered that I forgot. I remembered that I forgot to give you guys the pro tip. Pro tip number 1 is put a rope on the front of your canoe. If you have to lift it when you're dragging, like just putting a rope on the front and pulling it is like 100 times easier. Pro tip number 2: solo canoeing with a dog. You're more stable if you crouch down on your knees than having a higher center of gravity and sitting on the back. Not only that, you can sit closer to the middle, and then every time you paddle, it's gonna not push your boat as far to the left or the right with each stroke. So pro tips as a veteran canoe duck hunter. Hope those help you out. Appreciate you guys sticking around. If you want to support the channel the best way you can, guys, it's free. Hit the like button, drop a comment, subscribe, hit that bell, because YouTube, you know, you got to like jump through multiple hoops for them to ever show you my videos again. So do all that. And a lot of this gear we talked about was from Final Approach, guys. fabrand.com. You use code DUCKGUN over there and you'll get 10% off. I'll get a kickback too. I actually get a notification on my phone every time you guys buy something, which is awesome. Been seeing it a lot this year. So appreciate you guys supporting the companies that support me. They make awesome products or I wouldn't talk about them. So check them out, guys. fabrand.com. You get all the stuff, a lot of the stuff we talked about on the video there. So it's starting to rain. I think I'm going to paddle out of here. We'll see you guys on the next one.